Moin everyone. Today's topic is going to be the Nutri-score. The Nutri-score is a heuristic that is applied in Europe to food items and beverages. And in essence, it tries to summarize how healthy one item is to make it easier for people to follow a healthy diet. On the next picture I will present you how the Nutri-score is generally calculated and a small disclaimer. How much good does the Nutri-score do in my opinion? The answer is next to nothing. I think it does more harm than good, and I think it is a horrible idea to allow people to skip educating themselves on what a good, diet, a healthy diet is. It is a truly horrible idea. Whenever you allow people to remove responsibilities from their life, bad things will be the result. But let's now come to the Nutri-score calculation. How is it done? This is sadly a German slide and I apologize for it, but you can maybe use an OCR tool to translate it or something. In essence, you take the good and bad ingredients in one food item and then you build a difference from those things. On the bad side we have things like a high energy density, we have things like sugar content, the content of saturated fats, and the salt content of a food. On the positive side we have something like the protein content, the amount of fiber in a food, the amount of healthy oils and vegetables and fruit and something like that. And after that you subtract from the negative points the positive ones, and the lower the number that results, the better the item is. Well, in this case the scale ranges from 3 to 10, while the lower numbers mean that the food item is actually quite good, and the higher numbers mean that a food item is quite unhealthy. Well, so what could be wrong with this kind of Nutri-score? Well, let's dig into it. So, first of all, to understand why the Nutri-score is a horrible idea is to understand why or what healthy eating even means. And like 90% of healthy eating boils down to things like not over-consuming and consuming mainly unprocessed foods. And interesting enough, both of those things aren't accounted for in the Nutri-score. You cannot observe an item in isolation and say that it's good or bad. For an exercising person, there's no harm in consuming some sugar after exercising, for example. That doesn't make the sugary item or the sugary beverage is necessarily bad. But it is bad if your whole diet consists of it. You always have to judge a whole diet plan. It makes no sense to judge items in isolation. And another thing is that the Nutri-score incentivizes people to eat the seemingly healthy products in addition to their regular diet, not instead. It incentivizes overconsumption. People want to eat more of the healthy item in addition to the unhealthy stuff. You really have to educate people that overconsumption is the problem and not a specific item in most cases. And a good diet means replacing the unhealthy with the healthy. This is the key. You have to remove some of the garbage items and replace them by unprocessed things like fruits and vegetables and unprocessed forms of meats and even grains. The trick is just to find the right combination of the items. The items in itself are rarely the problem. And further, it is incredibly easy to combine items with a good Nutri-score into a horrible diet. And the, lust of humans for energy-dense foods will lead to that. They will pick the items with a good Nutri-score that are rather energy-dense and taste pretty good and eat only those. And they are supplied with the illusion that that kind of diet is a good idea. There's nothing about too much in this whole Nutri-score, which is unironically the most important part of all the healthy eating debate. All the studies out there that make some assertion about what healthy means and what unhealthy means all find out that those people that eat a lot of food are pretty much all the time pretty unhealthy, while those that eat in moderation are pretty healthy. And another thing is that there are no food items that are healthy, just healthy amounts. And the last thing that I find especially concerning is that the Nutri-score allows corporations to create food items with a good score that are horrible for your health. They will start optimizing for the score instead of start optimizing for the health. And the score has more than enough wiggle room for exactly that. You can just pump fiber, maybe even things like sawdust, into a food item, and it suddenly makes it more healthy, while in reality it has no effect whatsoever on it. This is horrible. This is really horrible. It shouldn't be allowed, and I have no idea how such a thing passed the lawmaking process in the European Union. It incentivizes people to abuse the system, like any form of regulation or law, pretty much. People try to abuse it all the time, and this one will also be abused. Okay, let's now come to a summary. What have we learned today? First of all, health is mainly eating in a deficit and eating unprocessed foods. The Nutri-score does not reflect that, not in any way. Further, the Nutri-score incentivizes people to add more items to a diet that are healthy. But removing stuff would be the right thing to do, not adding more stuff. Incentivizing overconsumption is a horrible idea. Further, it disincentivizes people from educating themselves because there is a neat number in front of them that they can use to fool themselves into thinking that something is healthy. While in reality they should look at the nutritional facts on the backside. Even though they tend to be off by up to 10 to 20% sometimes, it's still better than an A, B, C, D, or E. And creating bad diets out of good Nutri-score items is incredibly easy. And people will do it because they want to feel good from eating food. So they will find the stuff that is actually quite unhealthy despite having a good score. Or they find a possibility to combine items with good scores into a horrible diet. And everyone will do it. There's no way around it. And the last part is the Nutri-score can and will be abused by producers of food items. You can change your recipe for garbage food to make them fulfill a good Nutri-score while being incredibly harmful. There is such a thing as bad food items. There are just no good food items. You can poison yourself, certainly. That is pretty easy by, I don't know, processing the food in 30 different ways and adding lots of poisons to it. That is still a bad thing. The thing is, things like sugar or other basic ingredients do not make a food item bad, but lots of unknown items that did not occur during our evolutionary history, that can make an item or a diet bad. And in summary, the Nutri-score does more harm than good, in my opinion. It was never a good idea in history to take away responsibility from people. It leaves them without the ability to educate themselves, and they will always try to play the blame game. In a sense that, oh no, I got sick and fat from eating food items and it's all the fault of the Nutri-score. You shouldn't allow people to blame someone else but themselves for their bad decisions. That's always a bad idea. People willingly leap out to excuses to eat unhealthy and harm themselves when others are to blame. Okay, that summarizes it pretty much for today. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed the content of the video, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you think that I missed something important, let me know in the comment section. And until then, I wish you a pleasant day and goodbye.